everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, joined by.
Organoid Zero! Woo!
So this week, we have chosen probably the easiest topic, that, like overall easiest. Like maybe not easy for the two of us. Right? Well,
Eh,
maybe
eh.
the easiest one for us was the DCAU.
Yes,
Be
yes,
real.
it was.
But the easiest one for probably most fans to talk about, and that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, specifically in this episode, Phase One.
Phase one.
We the ones.
Yes. You the
Even though
twos. You're the
yeah,
biggest two of them all, my dog.
I'm a Cody crybaby, so
So am I. Don't
yeah.
worry.
Apropos of absolutely nothing,
Nothing.
but just because I don't know when I'm ever gonna tell this story again, um, I went to all out 2022.
Mhm.
Um, and while we were driving up, we actually had the WWE show on. That's when they had the Roman Drew McIntyre match.
Okay.
Um, so then they were like doing a live, so like and they had the Gunther Sheamus match. So fired up. Like, that was a good show.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the AEW show and they panned the crowd, this was the beginning of me like really beginning to enjoy my trolling of AEW fans.
God.
While I was still kind of considered more amongst them at that time,
Yeah.
and when they were doing the live crowd shot and like all the wrestling influencers there, like like throw it up for AEW, I was just to go like, who's gonna like, are they gonna fuzz me out? Like, what are they gonna do?
That reminds me of Adam. Adam Wilborn is one of my favorite wrestling commentators. He works for What Culture, and they got to go to a WrestleMania each year. The company they work for sends them out there to cover it and all that. And they always get these seats. They always during that whole run, every time they went, they were always next to some kid that just loved whoever Roman was facing. He would sit right in front of that kid and just throw the ones up and like, I demand, I acknowledge my tribal chief, just to be a dick.
I don't. I couldn't do that to a kid. I would do that to an adult or somebody that was there. But anyway, MCU. We're already way off the rails, but that's
Yes,
okay
it's fine.
because Phase One of the MCU was what began. Maybe didn't begin the superhero movie craze because it was kind of it was there with Spider-Man and X-Men and um, Batman Begins, but this was what really
It solidified superhero universes.
yes. And the first movie in excuse me in this superhero movie universe was Iron Man. And at the time the Iron Man movie came out, I liked Iron Man as a character because I'd had
You
a couple.
don't anymore, don't you?
I hate Iron Man now.
Okay.
I hadn't read Civil War yet, so
Okay.
that was the big catalyst into why I hate Iron Man. But I liked Iron Man. I had a few Iron Man books, had a few team ups with him and Spider Man. I had a few Avengers books. You know, I remember Iron Man from. I hadn't seen the Iron Man cartoon up until they brought it back on networks when the movie came out. So but I remember Iron Man and War Machine being in the Spider Man animated series from the 90s. Go check that episode out.
Yes.
Um, and so I was excited about Iron Man. I knew like his origin. I knew enough about Iron Man that I considered him a fan. I considered myself a fan of Iron Man, but I hadn't been reading a lot of recent books at that time, so I was not aware of Civil War. Which, after reading that, and then the Tony Stark fanboys and girls that would come after the MCU, like I hate Iron Man now. But when this movie came out, I was an Iron Man fan and I was excited.
Yep.
And did you see this movie in theaters or did you
Yes, I did.
wait?
I saw
Okay.
it in theaters because that was a thing. I was in high school. I'm like, There's an Iron Man movie. Like, yeah, let's go.
Um, I remember I remember going to see this movie. It was I was planning on going, but me going was like very spontaneous.
Mhm.
Like we were just kind of like, hey, like at the time, at the time, me and all my close friends that you've seen on this channel in its history,
Mhm.
were backyard wrestling, and we had a backyard wrestling ring. We got done with recording our backyard wrestling for the week, or like a very inconsistent schedule. We
Yeah.
WWE and TNA, we were not, um, but we got done doing that, and then all of a sudden, like we were kind of like some of us we'd be hanging out after the show, and me and JC, who's been on the channel before, we're kind of like, hey, like is Iron Man playing anywhere? And we looked at went to one local theater about 15 minutes away, and it was not the nicest theater in the world. Like it was old. Um, it was always the don't go to this theater. This is your last resort theater,
Uh-huh.
you know. But they were playing one at like 9 o'clock, and it was 8:30, and we're like,
Yeah.
go,
Go.
get in the car,
Yep.
get in there, and tie like two for Iron Man, popcorn, soda, seats, go.
Yes.
So that's one thing I remember the most about seeing that movie was just, all right, we got to go. We made it. Sit. And we were there. I mean, we had time to spare because of the previews, but it felt like just in the nick of time. And I remember really enjoying that. Like, I mean, Robert Downey Jr., was made to play that role. Like, there are certain people that are destined to play a character, and RDJ uh, was one of those people that like that this role was made for him.
Yeah.
There's certain I'd say maybe him and Patrick Stewart and Kelsey Grammer as Professor X and Beast, respectively, are people that were meant to play the roles that they were, those specific roles.
I would throw Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in that as well.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Um, but I really enjoyed the movie. I liked, how they basically did the updated version of his origin. Like, okay, it wasn't in Nam, but it was in the War on Terror. So it's like, okay, that's cool. Like that's fine. Because I remember before the movie came out, a lot of people were upset because they weren't doing Nam.
I.
Well, and at
Yeah.
the time, like I was kind of thinking, like, okay, well, if they're going to totally redo the origin story, that's not cool because that's something that was done a lot
Mhm.
when comic book movies would hit the big screen. Was all right, we got to adjust this, like we can't do it this way, we got to change the origin, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. And I remember when they just said they're not doing the Nam story, I was like, oh god, well, how are they going to do it then? But then you come to find out it's like, well, they just didn't do Nam,
Yeah.
they didn't do Vietnam, they did
The War on Terror.
they did a current war. You
Yeah.
can't do Nam and have the movie take place modern day,
Exactly. It's like, as long as it's a war, I was like, well, let's see what they do, and then I'm like, oh, nice. Like, absolutely, perfect.
um the one thing that I remember, and it's a silly thing in the grand scheme of things, but one of the things that I thought really I liked the most was how they incorporate. Speaking of an updated war, how they incorporated the real world into the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Like you saw things like, and I don't know the dude's name, but like I'd always see him on TV when I'd go to like the bank, or I'd go to I had a financial advisor with for CDs at the time with uh for to pay for her college.
Yeah.
And he'd always have it on like the this guy or this channel. It was the crazy. I can't remember his name.
Oh.
Yeah, he was like he'd always like give
Um.
people stock tips, but he was like really over the top,
Yeah.
and he'd like
I
smash
can't.
plates and hit things with a
Yeah.
baseball bat. And
I know who
I
you're
rem-
talking about. I forgot he
yeah,
was in the movie for a little bit. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
because
yeah.
Stark Industries quits making weapons, and
Weapons.
like he's all like, "Yo,
Oh,
this is a terrible stock," and that's like what he. I never watched him, but if I had to sit in the waiting room at my financial advisor's office, that's who was
yeah.
on. So like I was aware of that guy, and I'm like, oh,
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, that would be he would be pissed off at Stark Industries right now.
It would. I do like how they blur the line where they're like, well, this is supposed to be taking place at current time. Like, someone would be. Yeah, I do like that. Like, oh, we'll get to it because it's going to be an Iron Man 2, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Who he confuses Stan Lee for when they're going through the thing. But, yeah, no.
Well, the best one was in the best confusing Stan Lee was in Iron Man 1.
Who, or
He was
maybe it's.
he was Hefner and I might be mistaken, but he was Hefner in Iron Man 1,
Yeah.
and then Iron Man 2 was
I think
somebody
that
else.
might be. I think that might be who the thing I'm thinking
Yeah,
of.
he thought he was Hugh Hefner in Iron Man
Yes,
1.
yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, Stan. Good old
I
Stan.
love Stan.
I have a package for Tony Stank.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
the best cameo though we're gonna get to when we get to Phase 2, but
Yeah, it's up there.
yeah,
Some of my favorite cameos of his aren't even in legit Marvel movies, but yeah. Anyway, yeah. Iron Man 1, which what I love when you look back on it, you hear details that they didn't even have a relative, actual, finalized working script on that movie. They just knew the events and just went with it, and it
that's interesting.
turned out how it went. I was like, damn. that's awesome. And a lot of people like to forget, too, that Marvel started making movies and was doing its thing, and then Disney bought them.
Yes, this was its own. Marvel Studios was its own independent studio. Or not, I shouldn't say independent, but it wasn't. X Men had backing from 20th Century Fox
Yep.
to make the X. Marvel and went through 20th Century Fox to make the X Men movies. They went through Sony to make Spider Man.
Yep.
Um,
And then they have some dumb deals with Universal locking up distribution rights on certain characters for apparently forever.
yeah. So when Marvel started their own, when the MCU started, it kind of half-assed was, and I mean, obviously they're iconic. They've always been iconic characters to comic fans.
Yeah.
Now they're iconic characters worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
But the movies that Marvel Studios, had in development were kind of obviously not downplaying them, but like you kind of have, you have your pillars of Marvel, which are Spider-Man, the X-Men, Fantastic Four,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, maybe Hulk, which did return to
Mm-hmm.
Marvel, but most of the pillars were the
Elsewhere.
distribution rights were sent somewhere else. So you kind of just had, I don't want to say B tier is the wrong words, so I don't want to say that because they weren't B tier heroes, especially in comics. They weren't the B tier heroes, but they weren't.
They were the B tier sales,
Yes,
I guess,
yes.
if you could say, because like you weren't
They
selling
they were
Spider-Man numbers or X-Men numbers, but they were big names.
they were big names to comic book fans.
Yes.
Maybe not iconic to Joe and Jane on the street.
Yeah.
Again, going back to a wrestling analogy, you know, they weren't the Stone Colds or the Rocks or the Cenas or the Hogans or the Macho Mans or the Flairs, but you have like they were like the equivalent of like Triple H and Shawn Michaels and
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Angle and
AJ Styles.
yeah, nowadays AJ Styles,
Yeah.
people, they were that equivalency, but it ended up working so well,
Hmm.
especially because it hit its stride before Disney even bought them, or was beginning to hit it, or was beginning to really launch up before Disney even bought them, and they had that Disney help that when all was said and done, uh, I guess Cap would have been another pillar, but that they
Oh yeah.
retain, that they retained rights to. But
Yep.
you had Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, obviously later Guardians that
Yeah.
were becoming as popular, if not more than X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four that everybody knew.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but what did you think of the first Iron Man movie? Even with my acquired hatred of Iron Man, I'd still, if you said name your top 10 superhero movies, Iron Man 1 would be
Yeah.
on the list.
I definitely feel it would be up there. It's one of those things where uh it's just it had such a good feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a wild ride as you were watching. It had just the chemistry, everyone was great. Everyone was casted perfectly. Terrence Howard went and did his teriology somewhere else. For those who don't know what teriology is, Terrence Howard thought math didn't work the way it should, and he went insane. That's a whole topic for another time.
Yes.
But yeah, you had everything to set up well. Favreau knocked it out of the freaking park. Originally they were trying to eye up Tom Cruise to be him, and Favreau put his
Thank
foot
God they
down.
didn't.
Yeah, Favreau
I
put his
mean, like, and
foot down.
I'm not just saying that because you know Tom Cruise is crazy.
And I don't know if it would have happened, but that was one of the people
Yeah,
that
I'm not
wanted
just
it.
saying that because Tom Cruise is a nut. Because Tom Cruise is a good actor, but
Yes.
John Favreau just did such an amazing job in that role, and he's just, other than the movie I Love You Man, like, you can't help but, like, whatever movie John Favreau's in, you, like, find yourself liking whoever he plays. He's just got that sort of, you know, aura about him that he's just a likable
Absolutely.
guy.
Oh, absolutely. And having him be Happy Hogan was just perfect.
Yeah.
Like it was fantastic. Oh, like I said, the dialogue, everything in it. Casting Gwyneth Paltrow, although she forgets what movie she's in a lot of times, her as Pepper was fantastic. That was one of those where they made the relationship feel. I'm not saying that all of them were always bad, but a lot of times when they would just throw the couple together in the superhero movie, it was just here's hot person and hot person. They play characters that like each other. They felt really good together.
Yeah, especially, with how they made they made their chemistry, they made it worthy of that relationship.
Yeah. And them
You know,
adding Phil Coulson in the first movie to be that just like that was a just five counties over home run. Like
yeah.
could not have planned
And
that
then
better.
the biggest mark out moment for me is at the end of the video. Pepper reads the long, like acronym, like just call us Shield. I'm remember like,
Ah! Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I'm like, strategic homeland. What? That's a. Oh! But yeah, no, that was fantastic. And just like the actual process, like we don't get really heartfelt or not as many that feel really heartfelt origin movies as much anymore.
right. Yeah, it's
That
kind of like they just kind of like it by now. Just go. You
just
you should
go.
fucking know this.
And there's like they get the origin, but like a lot of other stuff is happening. It doesn't just focus on just that.
Yeah, there's the guy he was in the cave with,
Yeah.
that made it. You felt an attachment to that guy.
Yeah,
You know,
like Obadiah being the guy who was there and then the guy who betrayed him and having now I'm
and
blanking on his
kudos to Jeff Bridges for
Oh,
for that role.
so good. So good.
He did that so perfectly where you think like, and it's one of those like when you, it's kind of that the Sixth Sense effect where, you're shocked when it happens, but then when you go back and watch it, you're like, I should have known.
Yeah.
Like when he
Yeah.
betrays Tony, you're like, you slimy bastard. But then when, upon a rewatch, you're like, I should have
Wait.
picked up on this in the first, 20 minutes of this fucking movie. He was going to betray him.
Exactly. It's like he knows about everything going on, but yet he doesn't know why it's happening. I'm like, and of course, it birthed the meme that goes on with all it. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps. Well, I'm
Yeah.
not Tony Stark. Oh, it was so perfect. And like that they knocked it out of the park with a villain instantly. That
Yeah,
sets if you can write villains well, Obadiah Stane was magnificent.
absolutely.
Uh
But, you know, so when, they, Marvel needed a home run to establish this universe. And, not only they get a home run, they got a grand slam. Everything was on base. Everyone was on base. The cleanup hitter came up and boom.
yeah.
And they had 4 runs on the board before, you know, anything else could really get any traction behind it.
Yeah.
Um, the one thing that I regret was this was before the wait till the Marvel wait till the end of the credits, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
And as soon as the movie ended, we're like, okay, it's time to go. Like, we want to get more than just popcorn and candy to eat. And McDonald's closes in, you know 10 minutes, so we gotta go.
Yeah.
And then I, go back like, hey, did you stay after the credits? Like talking with other people that seen it. Like, no. Like, do you want me to tell you? Like, what after the credits? Like, Nick Fury.
Nick Fury shows up. We were
What?
like, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I remember buying that on DVD, putting it in, and just going to the credits. Like, what? Nick Fury. Okay, cool. Saw it now. As soon as it came out on DVD, bought it just to see Nick Fury.
And I do love how, and this is another one that people like to forget, the Ultimates version of Nick Fury was based on Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes. So the fact
And
they got Sam was,
to play him was fantastic.
yes. And he's really made that role his own. I mean, I know it's not. It's been obviously based on the Ultimates version. The Jim Steranko version of that character is not would not be played well by Sam Jackson, but
No.
the Ultimates version was. And
Yes.
now you just kind of accept that. I kind of said on here in the past, I'm not. I love the fact that you want to represent everybody, but sometimes I feel like race swapping gets
Not when it's
forced.
forced. Yeah.
It gets very forced, to just kind of go, look at me and look what we did. Aren't we great? When, I can't speak for anybody, but it just feels like you're,
Checking boxes.
yes, that it feels like you care less by doing that. But again, not my place in the world to say those things, but that's just
Yeah.
personal opinion.
Yep.
But when they did it with Fury, it's like, yeah, who cares? Like he's good.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
one, it's canon in some universe, and two, he's good. So who gives a shit? It's almost like the Michael Clark Duncan. Like
Yeah.
other
There,
than he hit every box for Kingpin except for the fact that Kingpin is Caucasian.
there's a
But who
video.
gives a shit because he's that fucking good?
There's a video I could send you. Someone made a video making fun of Daredevil Born Again, and he was like, "And now Bullseye's not Irish. They whitewashed Kingpin."
Is it serious? Because there are people that are like that.
I know, no. This guy went on a tirade about like all the stuff that was kind of dumb, like the overly Irish king or overly Irish bullseye. Like they're not even having logistical fights jumping off of seesaws and playgrounds, and I didn't even get any Evanescence songs in this show. This is bullshit.
Okay, so he's not serious. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Because I did hear people when the first season of Daredevil come out being all angry, like they've whitewashed the Kingpin. How racist! And I'm like, I
Oh
love
no,
Michael Clark Duncan as much as the next person, but have your facts. There's plenty of stuff you can call out that is legit. Please don't make yourself look stupid right now.
Oh yeah, that's like when when the Daredevil movies came out, saying they were trying to insert religion into comic book movies. I'm like, have you heard anything about Daredevil at all?
Yeah.
The word
Yeah.
Catholic guilt is there a lot.
Yes. That is the essence of fucking Daredevil
Oh,
is
good
Catholic
lord.
guilt and Catholic angst.
Yeah,
It's why I connected with Daredevil.
exactly. It's kind of nuts how it's an integral part of his character.
Yeah. So
uh,
moving on, this might be a long episode, folks.
it might be. We only got a couple, thank God, in phase one.
Yeah, and some of them are going to be pretty quick,
Yeah.
like these next couple.
Yeah.
The Hulk. Now, this
Yeah.
was the only MCU movie up until Captain Marvel that I did not see in theaters.
I didn't see it in theaters either.
It just kind of, it really went under the radar. And it wasn't a terrible movie.
No.
But it was just under the radar because, it came out in 2008. It came out after Iron Man. And it
felt
was.
like it wasn't advertised like any
Yeah,
movie prior to
exactly.
Iron Man was.
But I didn't go see it. I honestly did not see this movie up until right before Avengers came out, when I had to borrow it from somebody I knew. Me and some friends were going to binge watch everything up to Avengers.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I ever saw this movie. So it kind of got the worst spot for most uh, superhero movies in the summer. It was sandwiched between the two big ones. You had Iron Man, kicking off the MCU, Robert Downey Jr., everything, and then you had Dark Knight, which was really hyped. Everybody loved Batman Begins. The tragedy with Heath Ledger. So everybody was going to come out and see this movie. After that. So you have those two iconic, or what would go on to become iconic movies, and then slipping right in between all of them is the Hulk, which is already in and of itself a hard character to tell stories with.
Yeah, it is, because you have to somewhat show weakness in him, where he kind of has the Flash problem, where like, if he uses his powers, the problem should be solved.
But I'll say this, and I feel this way more with the Flash, and this is on the writers more than characters. The Flash, the writers find a good way to explain, this is why I can't do this. Whereas with the Hulk, sometimes I feel like they lean on Hulk smash a lot.
Yeah.
Hulk is like the Goku of superheroes. And that's why I kind of never really connected with, other than the Lou Ferrigno, Bill Bixby series that I watched on Sci-Fi with my grandpa and my aunt whenever I was growing up after school. It's kind of that the Hulk can kill your favorite. Yeah. Like the Hulk fanboys and fangirls are like the Goku fanboys and fangirls. Only difference is, like, I like Goku more. But you like Superman? Hulk could kill him, right? Oh, you like Batman? The Hulk would just destroy him. You like Green Lantern? Hulk would just kill him. Okay. And I have a friend who is a Hulk fanboy and literally has like an art print of the Hulk like stomping on Superman's head. He's got Batman's like neck, like breaking Batman's neck with his arm, and like all the DC heroes are killed by the Hulk. And he like legitimately like that's why all your favorites are bad. I'm like, okay, so I know not to talk comic books with you.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, he's one of those.
Good lord. I hate those.
Brad, and Brad, when you watch this, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Calling him out directly. There we go. Nice.
You know it's you, Brad. You know it's you.
That's funny. It's like who you like.
Oh yeah, I'm about that. But but he is very much like the Hulk is the greatest. Like, I'll debate you on the show, Brad.
That's like
love you, bud. Love you,
Okay,
buddy.
we're gonna like Simone from Gurren Lagann. The dude could create a universe with his thoughts, but he doesn't. You don't see me bringing it up to say your character sucks. I just think he's cool because he drills through stuff and
Yeah.
he's confident like I wasn't, and he learned how to be. And
Darth Vader could kill the Hulk, so there, I
yeah,
won.
there you
There's
go.
another. There's one that wasn't on the poster. But this movie was the epitome of mid. Like it
Yeah,
was good. Like it had like good parts. I thought the purple pants part was funny.
yeah,
Like where it finally runs away and like like I got you some pants and it's like these purple pants. Like they're the stretchiest ones I could find.
yes,
So like okay, like that was clever. I liked how they did that. I liked Lou Ferrigno's cameo.
yeah.
Like it had fun little stuff in it that I enjoyed.
The fight in
Um,
Harlem was good.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
the
wasn't
fight in
like
Harlem was good.
the fight was good. It was, but just comic books are like my wrestling. Like, okay, like you have a cool fight, that's great, but like, what? Why should I care about the fight? And I found myself not caring about the fight as much.
It felt like they weren't trying to set up as much in this. They were just trying to be like, hey, we
Yeah,
have the Hulk.
guys, we got him. He's part of this. Just relax.
That he's gonna be going later on, and you could tell they weren't really sure what they were doing because this movie has one of the dumbest, and I mean dumbest, after credit scenes in the entire MCU because it's Tony Stark coming in to talk to Thunderbolt Ross about the Avengers, basically, when it's not even a thing that Tony knows about at that time. Because
I I feel like they just did that so that way you can go like, hey, you know this guy?
but
Well, it's connected, baby.
But that was one of the weird things, though. Everybody tried to say for the longest time they had the weirdest hard on that this movie was not in the MCU. Cause
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
and I didn't get because they're like, well, it's Mark Ruffalo, and they don't mention any of this stuff happening. You don't see any of these people. I'm like, but it was made by Marvel Studios. It's in Phase One. Just because they don't mention those characters doesn't mean it's not there.
It,
And then everyone had a collective shit fit when Tim Hurt's Thunderbolt Ross showed up in fucking Civil War. Like, oh wait, the guy that's in universe. Like,
I think it's the most standalone of all of the MCU movies.
yeah, yeah,
Like it is one of those truly, and I'm not just saying this because I missed out on seeing it in theaters, but in retrospect, like if you don't watch the Hulk, you're good. As
yeah.
long as you're aware that the Hulk exists in the universe, you're fine. If you
And that
every
abomination is
other
in it.
movie in the MCU, if you miss it, you're kind of like, you're missing out.
Yeah,
That one's kind of like, you're not.
no, yeah.
And speaking of, other than one part of it, speaking of, you're not missing out much. Iron Man 2.
Yeah. I like the idea of what they tried.
Yes,
I will tell you the crazy
I
thing
like the
about
intro. Well, like I should say, they introduced two characters that are very important in this:
yes,
War Machine and Black Widow.
yes, and again, knock the well, the idea of War Machine. They introduced the. I loved in there when Don Cheadle comes in. He's like, "I'm here. It's
Yep,
me. We're Derek. Get used to it." But my
yep.
favorite thing about Iron Man 2 is something that happens in Deadpool and Wolverine. And I noticed this I saw that movie 7 times in a week and a half because of the amount of people that wanted to go see it with me. It's the most I've ever seen a movie in theaters consecutively, and it'll never happen again, but I loved it every time I saw it because I saw new shit in it every time I watched it. But there is a scene in Deadpool Wolverine where he's in the office talking with Happy about getting recruited to the Avengers. And it's just a whole fucking room full of Easter eggs. But the one that made me laugh uncontrollably when I saw it. You know when Pepper, he signs off everything and lets Pepper run the whole schmaz, and then he goes into the office and he's trying to talk to her, and that stupid kaleidoscopical fucking desk ornament is in the way, and Tony's like, can we get rid of this thing? It's driving me nuts. And he like topples it over and sets it on the desk. That is in the back how of Happy's office just going nuts in the background. I'm like, you really brought that stupid desk ornament back for Deadpool and Wolverine. But yeah, getting Scarlett Johansson to be Black Widow was a stroke of
Another
genius.
perfect casting.
Yeah,
Like the red hair, you know. I'm
unbelievably
not.
attractive.
Yeah, I'm about to say like, I'm not trying to narrow her down to, her looks, but she's a beautiful woman.
Yes,
She kicks major ass. What more do you need for Scarlett?
and you know
Scarlett
what?
Johansson, Black Widow. That's perfect.
I
You
got
know
over her not having the Russian accent within 5 minutes.
that kind of bugged me a little bit, but I got over it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Black Widow fan. Not like I didn't trust her. I'm going to quote one of my coworkers. I don't trust them, therefore I don't like them. Those are words to live by. And that was like me up until Endgame with Black Widow. I don't trust you,
Really?
therefore I don't like you. Yeah, like I didn't.
Wow.
Because I remember from the comic books and then later on Earth's Mightiest Heroes, like,
Oh yeah, I spoiled
fuck you. What the fuck? It
I
wasn't
spoiled it.
until like finally her and Hawkeye, you know, in that moment, I'm like, okay, I like you now. Okay, I trust you, therefore I can like you.
And
You know,
did she have any family? Yeah, us. Like,
yeah. So it took up until then,
wow.
but for me to
Okay.
like her as a character. I'm not saying like she's a bad character, but it's just one of those like it's like wrestling. Like I don't trust so and so. Like I don't know about so and so in there. But like that's when like it wasn't like I didn't dislike her character. I disliked her being close to the Avengers because I'm like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to our what are you gonna do? You're gonna do something, aren't you?
The worst thing about that movie is they wasted, in my opinion, another great casting. Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer.
Yes, I thought he did a great job.
He did a fantastic job.
Just being this smarmy asshole of a guy. There's a lot of. It was a fun movie. Like
It
I'm
was.
gonna. Obviously, Phase 2 is next, so I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out how to say this without going too deep into how we're going to start talking about Phase 2.
Yeah.
Um, Iron Man 2 was not as good of a movie as Iron Man 3,
I would agree with that.
but I walked out of the theater with a better taste in my mouth after Iron Man 2 than I did after Iron Man 3. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Iron Man 3, I'm wearing my Notre Dame Sugar Bowl hat. Okay. So, this year, Notre Dame went to the playoffs, went to the championship game, and lost. So next year, if Notre Dame next year, the next season, if Notre Dame goes 8-4 and wins the Sun Bowl or the Gator Bowl, that's not a good year for them, for that team anymore. Now, as a fan, I'm looking back on that going like, that's disappointing. We've fallen under, but in 2010, when Iron Man 2 came out, Notre Dame came off of a 6-6 season, and then they went 8-5 and won the Sun Bowl, and won a couple big games there at the end of the season. Despite being disappointing, won a couple big games, won the Sun Bowl. So like by the end of the season, I'm like, oh, that was like cool. That was great. I mean, we build on that. Obviously, one's better than the other, but Iron Man 3 is like, okay, you should be champions by now. Like, like that should, you have a standard set for, or even maybe not even 9-4. Notre Dame just going to the playoffs and being one and done is disappointing compared to where they were this year. So that's Iron Man 3. That's Notre Dame going back to the playoffs and being one and done. Like, oh, that's not good, because we were so close.
Okay.
That's bad. You've set a standard. You have improved. Here is where your universe is. Here's where the quality of your movies are, that making the playoffs and not making a run isn't good anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, we're 2 movies in, going to the movies and having a good time, you can get away with that
Yeah.
with where the universe was then. It's, success breeds a higher standard. And I felt like with the higher standard, or should I say the standard that hadn't quite been set yet
Yeah.
by Iron Man 2, I didn't feel disappointed walking out the theater. I recognized it wasn't as good as Iron Man 1. I recognize it's not going to be on any top 10 list, but I walked out of there going, oh, Mickey Rourke, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, John Favreau, War Machine.
Yes.
Like, cool. This was $15 well spent. And then later on, especially when, trailers were looking really cool, just came out of the Avengers, I'm like, what the fuck did they just do with that? More details in the next episode when we talk about Iron Man 3.
Okay.
So tune in.
There you go. Yeah, for Iron Man 2, like I said, Justin Hammer's character could have been used a lot more in future things. Really, really liked him. Scarlet,
Was, at least.
yeah, Scarlet's freaking perfect. Um, I like the actual ending at the end. Like you could tell that they like the banter between them. He's like, "Big gun's up there." He's like, "You have a big gun. You are not the big gun." Like them getting used to their dynamic like that was awesome. Uh, yeah, it was just showing more that this guy's meant to be this role and he's figuring this shit out. And like the little bits of him looking back on the video footage with his dad was really good in it.
Yeah. The little cameo from the Shield, from
Yes.
Captain America's Shield, was cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
kind of, to kind of go back, when my favorite parts of this movie were all comedy bits. And I feel like, even in the MCU where it is lighthearted and there's a lot of room for laughs.
yeah.
Um, when my favorite parts of a movie are just the comedy bits, I don't feel like that's a good movie overall. Like it's fine, but you know, going back to a wrestling analogy, Orange Cassidy can make me laugh. Orange Cassidy can also really make me like feel things, and I want to root for Orange Cassidy. Yes, he can make me laugh. Yes, I smile when Orange Cassidy's around, but then there's times where Orange Cassidy does things that I care about, and I want to see him succeed, and I want to see him win. So that to me is like what I look kind of like what I look for in superhero movies. Yes, I want to laugh. Yes, I want to have a good time, but I also want to feel for that character. And in the next movie we're going to talk about, I didn't feel for the character. I just enjoyed the laughs. And then also in this movie, I just enjoyed the laughs. My favorite scenes in this whole movie were Tony Stark eating donuts in a giant donut in his suit. Because I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something I would do if I had a fucking suit. I'd go to fucking Krispy Kreme and just sit on the roof and eat donuts. um, I liked the big fight scene, like where Black Widow's taking everybody out, and like she's like really getting on with the mission, and then there's Happy having like a knockdown drag out with one thug,
One
and
guy,
he
yeah.
finally wins, and he's like, "Oh, I did it!" And like she's taking out
The whole
everybody.
hallway's gone, yeah.
That's
Yeah, it
just
was
like
great.
perfect for Happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just the embodiment of his characters. I helped, you know. I did it. Look at the hard work I did. But still, like Tony and Natasha both not in retrospect with Natasha, not like appreciating Happy or like, good job, thank you.
Yes.
That was important and you did help. Thank you. um, um, and then I like the Justin Hammer hypes up this missile, like he'll go underground and just take out an entire military base. And then you have Rhodey, like, he shoots it and, tick, and Tony just goes, Hammer Corp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Or like when they
Oh,
show.
also the part with in front of Senate. I forgot about that part where the senator that is later revealed to be a Hydra agent.
Yes.
Like he pretty much makes him look stupid in front of Congress, and like there's all the commotion, and then you hear him just go, "Fuck you, Tony!
Yes.
Fuck you!"
Yes.
That was good too.
Or when they're showing they're making great strides. Oh, they are really, and he's showing them like tripping over themselves and the thing's not working, or them falling on its back and firing into the air. Justin's tripping over the desk to shut all the shit off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it like my honest to god favorite part, because again, I want to be a parent someday, and like moments like this get to me. The greatest invention I ever had was you.
Yeah.
That I liked that quite a bit. I feel it was kind of contrived for having the whole I built an amusement park to make you create a new element.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of that going on, but yeah, it was another one of those. This was meant to set up things. This was like the Hulk, but it had a lot of stuff happening in it.
Yeah.
So it at least had that.
This
going.
one isn't skippable. I will say that much. You can skip the Hulk. You can't skip Iron Man 2.
No, you need to see Iron Man 2. I mean, Scarlett Johansson in that suit alone, but I'm kidding. But yeah, it's.
Please do not come after us.
If any of you saw the behind the scenes footage, the people making the movie knew it, and so did Scarlett.
Yeah. It kind of goes back to whenever I met Gail Kim one time, and she was sitting all her pictures out, and like she had like her helper going, like okay, which one do you want there? And she's like, like okay, I need those two. I need one that shows my boobs, one that shows my butt. I need that.
Yep.
And just like when you actually like, it, but whenever you actually hear it coming from the woman's mouth, you're like, okay.
Yeah. That's
you're like, yeah.
I met the voice actors for this character Blair from Soul Eater. It's a quite promiscuous, like voyeurist witch that they deal with all the time, who's not afraid of not being clothed. And there was like, I really like this character. She's funny as shit and pranks the main cast. And also there's pictures of her. There's one where she's in a bathtub and all this. And there's this other one. And then I'm like, oh, I'll take that one. And I hear my buddy who's behind me in line going, "Coward!"
I remember meeting Jill State from Firefly, and like I was in, at that time I was in a relationship with my ex, and like she has like a bunch of pictures, and like there's like 10 of them, and I'd say maybe 8 of them were risque. Yeah. And I remember this slide look like, I want the one with you in the costume and Firefly. One, because I didn't want to get in trouble, and 2, like I just feel awkward about buying those pictures, even like if they're putting them out there for us to sell. Well, yeah. Now because I'm, I'm happily committed, and I'm not, interested in doing that sort of thing. But
it's still weird.
2, it's like one of those. It's like I just feel really weird.
Can you sign
buying like? Can you just sign this picture with you and your ass out? And like that just makes me feel like a dirty, perverted, creepy guy, and I'm like, no, I want this nice one with you from Firefly, please.
Yes.
Moving on. Yes. Next up is Thor.
Yes.
This movie is a fantastic comedy, and that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. It has really good. The actual drama with Loki in it's good, in my opinion.
Don't feel it.
Really?
I mean, I don't feel I don't feel Thor in the slightest. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people love him. I'm not going to say he's a bad character, but I do not feel Thor at all. As a comedy, fucking love it. But I didn't feel a connection with Thor until Endgame when he got depressed and fat. That's the one time when it was fucking played for the Yucks that I actually felt a connection and felt like I empathize with that character now. Because I've gotten depressed, and I've let myself go, and I've felt those ways about life and my failures and shortcomings, that's how I've dealt with it. So it took until the very end for me to actually feel more that like, all right, Thor, we're going to have some laughs now, buddy. Wow. That was literally all I felt about Thor, and I know a lot of people. Loki means a lot to a lot of people. I am not one of those people.
Wow.
I I didn't. I could. I don't want to be too harsh because I don't want to just shit on something that means a lot to a lot of people. Because I get why Loki does. You know, one of my earlier podcasts, uh, friend of ours, friend of the series, Tabitha, explain why Loki means so much to people, and I certainly appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care.
Wow.
Like that's just me. I Loki is the Will Ospreay of the MCU. Everybody loves him, and I'm here like, okay. Only difference is I dislike Will Ospreay. I don't completely dislike Loki.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like, but if you like him, please,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're invalid for liking him. I'm
No.
not saying that
I know.
any fan of Loki.
Literally never had someone that had that feeling towards him. I was just different. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I mean, I certainly, Tabitha meant, like, when you're an adopt, you find out you're adopted, and like how, like I can appreciate that aspect of it, but I think a lot of the reason I dislike Loki is like he's kind of the trope of just like I'm a snarky douchebag. Doondy 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 doon. Oh, I'm a dad guy, snarky douchebag, but everybody likes me, so they gotta turn me into a good guy. Like I hate that. Like that just annoys me. And yeah, just you know, it's a good role. He plays the role well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not trying to completely shit on the character. It just does nothing for me. I have not watched the Loki series because like that's not anything that would ever interest me to take that extended period of time to watch. That's just you know some people have connections, some people don't, and Loki for me is like cool. Like cool. I'm glad. I'm glad everybody has a good time. I'm glad so many people love him. I'm glad that this turned people on to comic books. I'm glad that this turned people on to um these characters. But and it wasn't bad. I'm not going to say it was bad with like the scene where he finds out that he's a frost giant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I have friends that are big Thor fans in general, and whenever it's I feel bad. I feel bad when I hear them talk about like how powerful scenes are, and I'm here going, I'm almost doing the Peter Griffin in that movie, and I feel like a dick. You know, like I remember one of my friends, they were saying that, um, the scene where he can't lift Mjolnir,
Mm-hmm.
and like force, like that's that, like they were crying because that means Thor's finally lost his power. And I'm here like during that whole scene being Peter Griffin going, somebody throw a pie. What's going on? Like, this is boring now. I want the funny stuff to come back. And I feel bad, but that's just kind of the vibe I was getting through that whole movie. I love that's one where I was there for the yucks. And everything I like about that movie was the yucks, including the Stan Lee cameo in that one.
It is a good one. It is a
I
good
feel
one.
like I've let the air out of the room by not liking Loki. I feel bad now.
I've never had someone have that opinion like that before. I was just, yeah, because in my opinion, legitimately, that Loki series might be one of the best things Marvel's done ever.
I mean, it just unlike other, like, I'm not trying to put myself up on pedestal, but like unlike other fans on the internet, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that there's no merit to that
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
You know, I don't think that they should just get rid of Loki because I say I'm not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, if you're selling points Loki, no sale from my wallet.
Gotcha.
Just me. I know I'm in the minority with that one.
Did you like Hawkeye being introduced in it?
I did like Hawkeye being introduced.
Okay.
That part, other than after I said somebody threw up high, it's like, well, let's see Hawkeye. That was that whole thing. But there were I loved so many one-liners in that one. There's so many things that I quote in that movie that I love, but it's all the funny stuff. I need a horse. We don't have horses. We just have cats and dogs and birds. I need one large enough to ride. Or I'm not going to do it because I do like my
You're gonna
Marvel Cup
smash,
here.
yeah, smash the mug. Another.
Let's drink. I like it. I know.
Yes.
And then one very underrated one that I don't think gets enough love. It's when help me with the name because I haven't seen it. The male scientist. What the fuck?
Oh crap.
That's with all of them. That's with Jane and
Oh no.
yeah. Okay, at least I know I'm not just stupid.
It's a Skarsgård. I can't remember what the actual character's name is though.
Yeah.
Doctor. Oh my
Whatever.
gosh, it's gonna
He's
bug
like
me.
going to bail him like out, who is he? Like, oh, he was just, like, why is he so big? In this line, steroids. Like, I always just that line just pops me. I don't know why, but he's just like, why does he look like that? Steroids. He's a big health nut. What can I say?
Yes, exactly. What is his sounds good? Eric Selvig, that's what it
There we
was.
go.
Selvig. It's like it's a cool last name. I just couldn't think of it.
Yeah, I couldn't think of it. And but Thor isn't just a character I don't like. I love the movies for the funny. Like if I want to laugh, if I want to have my day brightened with humor and funny stuff, I will put on a Thor movie. And I'm, and in that sense, I appreciate the character. But as like an overall character where you're trying to like convince me that he's like S tier or even A tier, and trying to, especially in some circles, trying to tell me that Superman, the Flash, Green Lantern are all not on his level. I just can't see it. Like I like the character in the movie for the yucks. I even bought a Thor. I tried reading Thor books after that, and I can't get into them. I guess it's just not. I respect his role. I respect how vital he like. When you have the Avengers, you can't do it without Thor.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I just never. The only time I ever really felt like go Thor was in game when he fell into because again, like representation matters. Someone who's dealt with depression in the same way Thor does, I felt represented. And that's the fucking movie where after they did that, everybody shit on it because but a bunch of fucking thirsty people out there going like, I want to see big muscles and abs. Why would you want to do something like that? Like, yeah. Fucking, you finally got like a deep emotional level with me and probably a lot of other people that have felt that way with Thor, and now you want to come down off your high horse into basic territory if I wanted to see muscles and abs. Fuck. Fucking tell me about deep storytelling and representation and connection and all these different things for 10 fucking years. Then finally, when I see it in that character, it's bad because you want to take people. I want to see Hot Thor. Well, Hot Thor got depressed. I feel for him.
Oh god.
So what'd you think?
I liked it. I loved it. Well, and I know we're not gonna agree, but one of my favorite supporting characters in all of Marvel's in that movie is Darcy. I love Darcy.
I love Darcy. Darcy's
Yeah,
good. But you're
Darcy's
funny. Like, I like everybody in this movie. I just like because it's like at the end of the day, it's just like, well, they're funny. Like,
No,
I love that she calls it meow meow.
yes. And I got the emotional stuff out of it. Me myself did, cause like not living up to stuff. Like I get that
Yeah,
with other things, and I got it out of it. Did I think it was an A tier movie? No, I just thought it was good. I think that's another one of those movies where everyone now who shits on a lot of things that come out from the MCU go, everything was a 19 out of 10. I'm like, no. Some of those movies were just good.
that's kind of something I've said about the MCU a lot. Is it's that MCU name that just carries so much weight in the fandom community that it you know the MCU is like, and it's funny saying this because like it's the most in general, it's the most classic example of big budget means great when maybe that's what's covering up shortcomings, but I digress. I always compare the MCU, like at least with the fans, I always compare the MCU to AEW. It's something that brought something we love and made it so mainstream and made it so viable. You know, AEW made a different type of wrestling that a lot of us were fans of. And a lot of us were following and made it to where you're not digging around on the internet, you're not buying a streaming service from Japan, you're not spending $400 a year to acquire the DVDs just to watch it. Made it viable to where that can just be in right there for you. It's there, you know. And you can't overstate how important that is, especially to fans. However, there's times where I think the quality of maybe like just one particular thing from that is not super duper high. And honestly, if you compared it to something from their competition and just put this and this side by side, you would say, well, maybe this from the competition was slightly better, or they're at the very least equal. And but because the MCU did all of this for comic fans, for fans of superheroes, fans of like all these characters, and made it to where did so much for that, you have a lot of its big supporters who just what's the word like they feel so connected and they feel like they owe so much to the MCU, just like the AEW fans feel like they owe so much to AEW for doing that, that they tend to overrate sections of it when in all actuality, it's probably pretty equal. But because this brought this up so well, like, oh, it's like, go doing like the matches, like this match from AEW and this match from WWE are probably both like maybe 4-star match, but because AEW did it, 5.5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 5.5, banger, great. If you put Thor up against Shazam, they're probably pretty equal.
I'd say that.
But because Thor was part of the MCU, you know, which has all of this, happiness and, was so innovative for comic book movies. And you have, Chris Hemsworth in it, and everyone loves Chris Hemsworth. I like Chris Hemsworth. Other than being jealous that he looks like that, I love Chris Hemsworth. He's a good man. Seems like a good man. But
Yes.
I did used to work out and do sit ups going, I hate Hemsworth. I hate Hemsworth. I hate Hemsworth. Like a running joke. It's like, look at Chris Hemsworth, his body and his nice guy and good
there,
personality. And
there's a great clip if I can find it to show show you that there's I can't remember, he's with Anya Taylor Joy advertising the Mad Max movie they did together, Furiosa, and they're talking about the Australian accent that is the most sexy accent in the world, and he puts his they have these cups where you're like whatever, and he slides his over into strongly disagree. He's like, no, are you kidding me? Hey baby, you're so sexy. Why don't you come over here, honey? Just so how terrible the accent is to try and flirt with people. One of the funniest things he's ever done. If I can find it, I'll send it to you. It's
Yeah,
funny.
but that's just got like people. You put Thor and Shazam. Although Thor's great. That's A tier at minimum. It's A tier. And then like Shazam, B minus at best. Like, I mean, really, come on. And it's like, no, they're probably if you take a label away, you're probably going to look at them close to the same. You're either going to bump Shazam up or you're going to lower Thor down. But because Marvel, it's up there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I agree 100%. Yeah, yeah.
So now we go to Captain America,
which is
and
the start of my favorite, one of if not my favorite portrayal of a superhero character ever.
yes. Again, the one thing I'll say that Marvel did, I don't know if I'd say they're doing better than what DC was trying to do, because I think a lot of those guys were great too. I will die on the hill that Batfleck was amazing. Everybody can fight me on that one. But Marvel did have more hits with their casting than misses. The Flash was a huge miss, at least in the movies. Now in the TV show, perfect.
Grant was great.
Yes. But yeah, Chris Evans just made and I didn't love the first Captain America movie that much. Like I thought Chris was great. I thought like it was a good story, but like it was just one of those like I wasn't disappointed, but I walked out of there thinking very good and not great. Not taking anything away from the movie. It was, it was a very good movie, and the way they did the way they Chris portrayed Captain America, the way that they handled him getting frozen, the way they handled World War II, and then late, and how Hydra was top shelf. Like that was great. His relationship with Peggy. I love Tommy Lee Jones in that movie. My favorite scene in the movie was the one with the flag at basic training.
Pulls the pin out.
Yeah, because that's the perfect encapsulation of Steve's character.
Yeah.
Steve was, but Steve was, had the ingenuity. He was work smarter, not harder. But he wasn't given a chance because he wasn't that guy yet. And then they made him that guy. So you take those, that good heart and that work smarter, not harder mentality, and then give him the physical capabilities to be the super soldier, and you have the best possible soldier you could possibly have.
Yeah, the one again, I'm one of those people that soaks up well done dialogue a lot. That scene where he's talking about why he believes where Erskine is talking to him about why he believes this serum is going to work better with Steve than it did with when they tried it with Red Skull and how it didn't work well with him. Because you're not a perfect soldier, you're a good man.
Yes.
And the serum brings out the best in someone. And it's going to bring out the good person in you, not the perfect soldier.
Yes.
And he's like, what? Why do you want to go? He's like, I hate bullies. I don't want to shoot Nazis. Like, it's
yes.
perfect. Oh, it's so good. And having Stanley Tucci just to come in and do that one little bit was great. But yeah,
it was the best way to introduce Captain America to people that, even though he's a pillar of the universe, he wasn't super well known. Like people just, other than being a cliche of like, oh, you're patriotic, or you're the military. Look, Captain America over there.
Yeah.
Other than being like a punchline, nobody knew who Cap was.
Hmm.
The '90s really hurt Cap.
Yeah, that one movie that came
I'm
that
just saying,
wasn't
like in
wasn't
general,
great.
like the late '80s, early '90s in comic books when old school wasn't cool. Well, you
Yeah.
don't really get much more old school than Captain America.
Hmm.
And when they tried to update him for the '90s, it was not good.
Yeah.
So to have this movie breathe life that I feel Cap deserved as a character, it was it's great. It's what was needed. The only downside is I just feel like there was just something in the movie, and I can't quite put my finger on it, that was missing for me to make it go from very good to one of my favorites. Now, the next Captain America movie, that one did. But no, I loved it.
I don't know.
Loved
It
his
was.
relationship with Peggy. Like
Oh yeah.
that was a great.
Haley Atwell as Peggy again.
Yes,
Freaking perfect casting. The,
I the best. The one funny line that I really like was Howard Stark saying, "Hey Peggy, I'll come over to my house and do fondue." And then they have like the big, he kisses that other woman, and Peggy's mad, and she's like, "Like what? I heard you and Howard were gonna go do fondue."
Dude again.
And then like Howard, like the next scene, has like, "Fondue is just cheese and bread, my friend."
Friend. That also like speaking of that scene of kissing other woman, that woman is who I have nothing against Brie Larson. That woman in that scene is who I wanted to play Captain Marvel. That's Natalie Dormer, who is an unbelievably amazing actress, who would have fucking nailed it as that. Most people know her from Game of Thrones and not from her 2-second cameo
Right.
in Captain America, but she's a fantastic, unbelievable actress. But yeah, the look of the suit that he gets once he's
Hmm.
actually Captain America is awesome. It's a legit army looking look, and the scenes of him like tearing apart tanks and all this, I liked it a lot. The again, sucker for good dialogue. The scene where she's talking him through crashing the jet, and
Mm.
and I'm late for a rain check.
Heartbreak, heartbreaking.
Yeah, now
That is.
I tell you,
Mm.
I when we get to the phase, the ending phase, I had in my brain, because he crashes and then Peggy says, "I owe you that dance," or whatever. He's like, "I'll have to take a rain check on that dance." I wanted so bad at the end of Endgame for Steve to die in some way or fact. I'm not upset with the way they did it because I still got the thing that I wanted, just a different happenstance. I wanted him to pass away, and you just like see an end credit scene where you see him in heaven, and then you just hear Peggy off in the distance saying, "It took you long enough. It's time for that
Yeah.
dance." And it just cut. That's all. That's all that I wanted. And then I kind of got that, but not in the exact same way. But I was still very happy with what I got
Yeah.
because and there I have two friends that say that Winter Soldier is quote unquote extremely boring, and I can't comprehend how they
I,
say
I
that.
I can't comprehend that either, but I also probably have every one of my subscribers clicking unsubscribe right now because I just said I don't like Loki.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm
it's
not really going to throw any shade.
yeah. When we get to it, my favorite moment with Stephen Peggy is in Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll
Because
get to that.
I'm not gonna get into it too much now, but I sat for 3 years with my grandmother who had dementia and Alzheimer's till her ending day, and oh, that scene hit hard.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, yeah, Cap was really good. Freaking oh no, I'm blanking on his name. Red Skull,
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving. Again, casting, Koosh, just out of the
Now,
park.
yeah, he was, and he only did one movie because like they brought Red Skull back, but
he
They
said
recast him.
he said he had nothing against the movie and the people that did it. He just said the process and the style of movie was something he wasn't into anymore.
Right.
So it is what it is. And they when they brought him back in Endgame when Russ Marquand did it, I was like,
And I
okay,
love
that's
Ross.
something.
I love Ross Marquand just
Yeah,
because I met him a couple years ago, and he's a fantastic guy and a
yeah.
Denver Broncos fan, just like me. So we
So
ended up
that's
like
cool.
having a very extended period of time at his table talking about the Broncos, which was really neat. He even
Nice,
wrote "Go Broncos" on my autograph, which was also
nice,
cool. And the
nice,
Broncos were winless up until that point at the that convention, and they won that day. So I feel like me and Ross, like we
nice,
kind of had something going on there to help the Broncos get their first win of the 2023 season. So
nice. Uh, yeah, the overall flow that you got from Chris to set the standard for that character after Chris denied that role like 4 times because he didn't want to make the commitment because he's like, this is either going to make or kill my career.
yeah, well, and he already sat through like playing Human Torch, which
Yeah,
was maybe not great for his career. Or at least,
no,
well, maybe not the fact that he played Human Torch, just those movies in general.
yes,
But the thing that I always like go back to was they were just how incredibly close John Krasinski was
mm-hmm.
to playing that role. And granted,
And how close his
he's
wife was to being Black Widow.
yes. And granted, now John has done action roles and like you can see it, but I would have had a very hard time. And I would have given him a chance, but
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of The Office.
yep.
I would have had a very hard time if John had gotten that role, watching Captain America and not just seeing Jim Halpert going like, hey, so we're gonna take down Nazis.
Yeah, it is
Like,
hard.
I'm gonna pull a prank on Bucky. you know.
Yeah, it is hard to see, and now again with Chris, he's gotten some roles where he has to do a lot in the role for you to not see him as Captain America. But if the role that everyone sees you as is the MCU's Captain America, that's a pretty good thing to hang your hat on.
True. Oh yeah, absolutely. But I could also see as an actor being like, I don't want to be Captain America anymore, you guys.
Yeah, yeah. And like they were letting them do more stuff in the in betweens. That's one thing that we was like, I want to do other stuff besides this. And they were letting them take roles other than that. And that people don't like to think about it. He has realistically played like 7 comic book characters, just not in big franchises. Cause he was in Losers, which was a comic book movie people don't like to think about. Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
like he was in a lot of comic book movies. Like him and Ryan Reynolds had the lion's share of not knowing how many comic book movies they were actually in.
Right.
Yeah.
So the post-credit scene in Captain America is him waking up in present day, and then straight up a cameo,
Yes.
or not
But I
cameo, a trailer for
for the
the
Avengers.
Avengers.
But I love that he could tell something was wrong because they were
Yes.
because he's like, I was at that game. This is not correct. That was awesome.
He's a big enough baseball fan. He knew what game was being played. Respect.
That was awesome. I was like, yes, that is what Cap would do. Just blows clean out of the fake room onto freaking New York City. But yeah, I that was the thing when we're sitting there and I'm like, whoa, wait, huh? What are we? Avengers? What?
I mean, we all kind of knew,
But like the fact that
but
you were just like,
but when you actually saw it in front of you, it's like it's real.
yes, it's
It's coming
actually
now.
happening. Now, well, we're gonna get to it in this when we talk about how much I love the costume of Captain America in the first Avenger. I don't know what they were thinking in
Revamped for the '90s, baby. Even though it wasn't the '90s anymore.
What if we made all of his colors really dull?
Let's de-emphasize America of Captain America.
America. Yes, but no, like okay, so I'm gonna set the mood here. I don't with when I was growing up, a very not good thing happened when I was in 6th grade that led to my suicide attempt. and it cut off the entire dad side of my family. And then a bunch of other stupid shit happened with drama to where I didn't see most of my mom's side of the family because they just fought with each other and didn't have time for anyone else that wasn't a part of the drama because whatever. So I came close to the person who I changed my last name to eventually, my youth pastor and my group of friends from my youth group. And that became like my second family and all that, and more of like a first family now. And then this was when you like, it was a big deal with midnight releases still.
Yeah.
So we're going to the theater, which is the big one in a town near us. We could only get 6 seats together in like the third row back from the screen. So we're all in six
Doing one
going
of
like
these.
doing one of these, but I still had a great time. But we get in there and like I always wear a hat, and then like the wife of them who like normally was like doing mohawks or whatever with their kids. I'm like, all right, mom, you're giving me a mohawk for one. She's like, what? He's like, this is a big event. We're doing something. You're giving me a mohawk. We're seeing it. We're getting it in pictures. I don't care. And we all had like t-shirts on, and like our worship director had a t-shirt that had Captain Picard on it, and then a map of America. So we had a Captain America t-shirt on. But and then we got there, and when I tell you, other than when I got to Endgame and the portal scene, when I very much apologize to the kid that was sitting next to me because I said things that a kid of that age should not have heard
Oh no.
when that scene was going on because I was excited. Anyway, but so when I'm watching this movie and I'm like, this is the first time where I was getting reactions in a theater. When we get up there and like Hawkeye's mind controlled, the Tesseract is stolen, and they go away, and then Coulson is over the radio going to Fury, what are we gonna do? And then it cuts, and just the Avengers. I'm getting goosebumps right now. When
Yeah.
the Avengers logo pops up and the fucking roof explodes off
My
the
dogs are exploding right now. So with you talking about it. Yeah.
yeah, like just for the Avengers logo popping up. Like
Yeah.
that was insane. How
Yeah.
much this meant to people.
I I also went to a midnight release. Um Me and some friends, we were all working at Mickey D's, and we went to not the bad theater I saw that Iron Man at, but like the semi good, not as good as the big AMC theater.
Yeah.
We went to one of those and saw the midnight release, packed. Like it
Oh
was
yeah.
like the first. That was my second midnight release. My first one was Green Lantern of all things,
Yeah.
which I didn't hate that movie, but I didn't love it either.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there for this one. But went to the midnight release. You know, we're elbow to elbow, and this was before recline seats, so you were just bump.
Yep.
But it didn't feel like it because it was such a great movie. Now, I love the movie. I love everything about it. Only thing I really didn't like was Hawkeye being evil for
A good chunk of it.
like the first 75% of that movie. That kind of, as a Hawkeye fan, like that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but it made sense. It was fine. It's fine. Fine.
Yeah.
Not complaining.
And it did have him do a lot of cool shit at the end to kind of make up for it.
Yes.
And then Ultron became the Hawkeye movie for a bit just because of that.
Just can't give Hawkeye his own movie. Did not Fraction teach you nothing?
They did. That's did you watch? I assume you didn't watch the Hawkeye series.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but
It is just Matt Fraction.
Nice.
It's
Okay,
legitimately
time to watch it. Yep, it's time to watch it.
They have the dog. They have it's everything.
You got lucky, then we're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything. It's just that Matt Fraction run. It's literally that.
Nice.
with like some other stuff added into it, obviously, but it's a lot of he's living in an apartment and he's got the pizza dog and blah, blah, blah. It's like yeah, it's very much that.
Cool.
But yeah.
But they did like in retrospect, like it's a great movie. Like it's top 5 for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also look at it and go, it is, I'm going to bring another wrestling comparison here. It is the superhero movie equivalent of the main event of WrestleMania 40. It's amazing. You know, It's amazing. It's amazing what you pull what was pulled off with that movie,
Hmm.
just like what was pulled off in the main event of WrestleMania 40. It's amazing. And
But once you watch it once,
no, I can watch it a million times.
okay. I didn't
I
know.
can watch Avengers a million times. I can watch Cody and
Oh,
Roman a million times.
I was gonna say that you don't get as much of a feeling the second time you
Oh
watch
no,
it
no,
as
I
the
get
one.
the feeling. I get
Okay,
the feeling
I
every
didn't know if
time.
that's what it was for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what I uh, but I can also understand where you could look at it and go like, hey, that brought a lot of great feelings and it shouldn't be looked down upon because of it.
Yeah.
But these might be better quality.
The,
You know, you have a great feeling watching the main event of WrestleMania 40, but if you liked Brian Danielson and Will Ospreay at Dynasty a few weeks later better, I get it.
yeah.
You know, like that makes sense. You know, if you liked Cody's match with AJ the next month better, okay, that makes sense. If you liked, you know, just other matches in general better, okay, that makes sense. But but recognize that the feeling that this created is going to make a lot of people love it because that meant a lot to a lot of
Hmm.
people. Same thing with Avengers. That meant so much to so many people, and especially as the movie progressed, and you have all the pitfalls. You have Thor showing up. You have the infighting and later the unity. The death of Coulson. Where fucking Colonel Fury. Using some good old fashioned manipulation by putting his cards in his.
Yeah.
Like I love
Yeah.
Fury, but you bastard.
Yeah.
Um, you have the
I recognize the
confrontation with
council has made the decision, but here it's a stupid ass decision. I have elected to ignore it.
yeah the confrontation, the verbal sparring with Iron Man Thor, the puny God moments. But then, you have the big one where they all finally stand back to back together. That is
Yeah.
all of that is iconic. And, you can be a hipster douche and be like, that's so fucking basic. Just like with Cody. You said with Cody and Roman, that's so
Yeah.
fucking
That's
basic.
because sometimes the basic thing is the best thing, though.
Yeah.
You don't need to
You know,
overcomplicate it just to be good.
yeah. But I can, like all those things are, you know, this is all we ever wanted. Like all of us that kind of were, whenever I mentioned in our first one, we were just talking about movies. When you're on the playground reading comic books and in 2000, 2001, before like the movies really got back going again, and you're having people go like, "That's so fucking dumb. Why are you doing that? Why are you reading superheroes like?" Dragon Ball Z is where it's at. Yu-Gi-Oh's where it's at. Like, why are you wasting time on that? What Captain America? Huh? And now it's finally, I remembered where 11 years earlier it was mocked by other like non-cool kids at
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
because comic books weren't cool, and now like here it is for everybody to see.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
But I can also understand where you put the first event if you want to be critical and put the first Avengers movie up against Dark Knight, or put it up against an X-Men movie. Put up against the first X-Men movie. There's the theme's prejudice and the theme's racism and government control and the government fearing what they don't understand. Well, maybe there is more intelligence to those, but still,
Yeah.
this was this define aura. That
Yes.
is the Avengers movie, the first one.
Yes. Yeah. I loved it. I the legit only dislikes that I have are I felt at times there was a bit too much excuse fighting certain times to kind of move the story along.
People
And
wanted to see Thor and Iron Man fight, and they got the fight.
yeah, and the other thing, and this was a Joss Whedon thing that he got better at in Age of Ultron. some of the dialogue that he like there's some of the best some of my favorite lines from Cap are in this movie, but some of the worst lines from Cap also are in this movie. Like it
Yeah,
runs on some form of electricity. He's old. Ah!
I did laugh at that, but
But
yeah,
like then you also have on the other hand, you don't want to get in that fight, Cap. They're basically gods. There's only one god, ma'am, and he doesn't dress like that. Like that is something Captain America would say.
yes. And you mentioned going with youth pastor. One of the
Yes.
guys that went with us is very religious guy, and he like that was his favorite line, because it does
Yeah.
kind of it falls back into the point of like, Tony Stark has met gods and is still a staunch atheist, but Captain America has met other gods and is
Still, yeah.
still a Christian.
Still a Christian, and that's why I'm like, ah!
Like
But
that's
yeah,
that's that's the character.
absolutely. And like you do get awesome moments where you get to see Mjolnir smack off of Cap's shield. And I will tell you, this was back when the craze was having your movie in 3D. Still,
I didn't see in 3D, which I regret.
the coolest shot in any 3D movie ever was in this movie. There's
Fuck.
that point where I mean this with all seriousness because I don't know how they pulled this off because it legitimately jump scared me in the theater. How they did it. So the awesome moment where Banner's walking towards the Leviathan, it's like Cap goes, this might be a good time to get angry. I'm always angry. Before he
Yep.
does that though, when in the movie you have the Leviathan coming down and slithering in the street, in the theater, I don't know how the fuck they did this with the 3D glasses, but like it comes onto the screen, it felt like the thing came out of your 3D glasses at them. And it scared the shit out of me because I didn't know how the scene was going to play out. And all of a sudden, the Leviathan swoops down and comes out of my glasses at the screen. I'm like, oh! And it scared me in the theater.
Nice.
And I was like, holy shit. But yeah, and he just cracks that thing. And all the cool team up shots were like the unibeam off of the shield, the Hawkeye no look shot at the Cody's going
Yeah.
by. And like showing how useful archers can be. My favorite thing in a video game and anything, and we've said this before when we were talking about Horizon, is an archer. When Hawkeye runs out of arrows and other stuff, and you're seeing him stabbing people with arrows, putting that same arrow in and then shooting someone else, and then pulling an arrow out to use as his like grappling hook arrow. I'm like, archers can be cool. You just have to do shit with them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ah. Ah. So good. And then like I love the like and then the first time where they're like people that don't read comics had to do homework when they did the end credit scene and they're like who the purple guy?
Yep. But it was a tease, so if you didn't want to do your homework, it's like, well, he's coming.
He's
Just
coming.
just wait. Just wait.
Just
You'll
wait.
find out.
But like the other end credit scene with the shawarma, I love like learning.
Well, before we even get to that, like,
But,
I wondered if they were going to kill. Like, I felt for a brief moment, and this was after I started hating Iron Man. So I thought they were going to kill Iron Man. I'm kind of like, oh fuck, Like I remember like being like, damn. Well, I'm like, and then I'm kind of like, as he comes down and his heart stopped, and I'm kind of thinking in my head like, well, RDJ's gotten back big. He's probably said, I'm going to get you through Avengers. So I'm like kind of here because I don't have, lost my feelings for Iron Man after reading Civil War, and then lost him even further when they had a Civil War movie. Um, so I'm understand like kind of having the oh damn, but in my head I'm kind of like, well, that's probably what they're, I'm starting to get nerdy analytical and like. Oh, he's awake. I'm like, oh, okay,
yes.
okay, cool, we're good.
Blows him up when no one could get him to come back up. Yeah, that was great.
And then like, woo, yeah, he's like kind of having the traumatic experience, like like, hey, can anybody eat? Let's take the day off tomorrow.
Shawarma? You ever had shawarma? I want to try it. There's a shawarma joint down the road. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
I've never had that before. Yeah.
But
And then you have the first post-credit scene with Thanos, and then you have the last one with them just silently eating shawarma.
in that scene, I love leading the details later that they shot that like when they had everyone together for like the premiere because they didn't have one at the premiere, so they shot it later. And then also in that scene, they had to have Chris Evans sit a certain way and put his fist on his face because he was shooting. I believe it was oh shoot, what's the movie? It's the movie where he's on the train that the world's frozen over. I'm blanking on what it's called, but he had a beard, so he had to hide his face at an angle and like put his fist up a certain way because he had a beard growing out for a role, and they couldn't show it on screen. And he also had like lost all his muscle mass, so they had to like pad the suit out. But yeah, the
That
movie
explains
has
why Cap was like that. No, I didn't know that story. So that
yeah
explains why Cap was like
a
was
little
that
bit,
way.
but yeah, it's I do like that they're like, yeah, and then we'll come back, we'll meet each other, it'll do if we ever need him again, and yeah, it was good.
And of course, and one of the cool things was like I'm watching the whole thing. I'm like, "Where's Stan? Where's Stan?" I'm like, did they not do Stan in Avengers? What the fuck? And they're very superheroes in New
New
York.
York,
Like, ah, finally, yes.
yes, I doubt it.
I was thinking that too, but like I was getting worried. I was
Yeah,
getting worried. Like, where the fuck was Stan? Did I miss Stan? What happened? Super. Who cares, Stan? We're good.
ah, best New York
Ah,
accent ever. I love him. Oh,
whoops. That is it. This was a long one. I told you. I told you it was going to be a
yeah,
long one. But I want to thank you all for bearing with us in our ADD and ADHD tangents and everything else that somehow would come back to the first phase of the MCU.
absolutely.
If you enjoyed, please like, share, subscribe. Follow me on my social media pages, facebook.com/athleticgeek89. Um, the app that people don't claim they boycott but still use at athletic_geek89
Yes.
and Instagram athleticgeek89.
And you can find me everywhere at Organoid Zero, mainly on Twitch and YouTube. And if you like cosplays, conventions, and all that goody stuff, you can find my Instagram over at Organoid Zero, which by the time you watch this, I will have come back and already been back from Anime Milwaukee, a convention I'm going to. So if you want to see the photos from that, check out my Instagram.
Yep, yep, it'll be there. It'll
Yes.
be there.
Yes.
All right, so thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See ya.